And that was the initial, congratulatory message to the president-elect. But later on, there was also a different message, so we'll find out. And there's also the message that you'll see on your screen right now, which was via Twitter. Good morning, Kenya. Our audience of transmitting the results is revealing worrying trend. Something went fundamentally wrong. So, Dr. Okot, maybe we can start from there. What is this that you discovered later on that possibly you didn't know about?
Well, first of all, Gitonga, let me just say that in any race, there are people who will win, there are those who lose. So for me, I make no apology. We consider defeat because looking at the circumstances, the context in which we were, nothing fundamentally could have changed to make me the President of the Republic of Kenya. And I didn't then congratulate President-elect. I congratulated President Uhuru for his early lead. And I wished, I wish them well. Should Uhuru be declared the president? And I say that should Uhuru be declared the president, he has a job at hand. I also said in my statement that we will not blindly support any government of the day, including his. Should he form the next government, we will still stay vigilant. So I think people are getting this wrong. That at that stage in time, you can even do an exit poll on your own and actually concede defeat. This is democratic. It's normal for anybody to do that. And honestly, I still insist. Nothing could fundamentally happen for me, Ekuru Aukot, to be the president.
Yeah, so, specifically for you to become the president. So either way, you'd still
yes, either way, I'll still concede defeat, and I still concede defeat even right now. So it's normal to do that, and I don't think really looking at even the trend of things. And I also said in that statement that our party will now embark on auditing the process, this electoral process. Remember, in this process, there are always three aspects of it, and I'm sure Boaz will also confirm. There's the preparatory phase of any electoral process. There is now the administration of that electoral process, including the voting, the tallying, and all that. But there's also the audit, where we really need to discover what, for example, went wrong. For example, when I tweeted and said that something seems to have fundamentally gone wrong, even today, as we speak, I'm told the tallying is still going on at the IBC portal. For example, in a school called Mukororia Primary School, that was a polling center somewhere in Mbeere, Embu, I got 223 votes. Everybody else got 0. This is part of our audit. We thought that something is not right there. I mean, looking at the pattern of Kenyans, in a school called Kisiany, I think a station called Kisiany, Raila Amolo Odinga got 0 in Kisumu. And then later on, we discover that in Mkororia Primary Polling Center, now it has been reversed. Nyaga is now the one who got the 223, and the rest of us got 0.
All right.
So that's why I'm saying something went fundamentally wrong. And
this is on the audit process now, of course, as you look at what was coming in. All right, let me hear from Boaz your take on this.
Thank you, Ndugu Gitonga. And first, I congratulate Ekuru. That was a bold move. Thank you. To offer yourself for consideration in this kind of a competition. And in fact, I would urge other Kenyans to follow suit. Beyond that, I think when one goes for a political office, particularly at that higher level, it is not about winning or losing. It is about ensuring that the process and the outcome are actually processes and outcomes that can stand the test of time. So that I think you must have realized that along the way, even having conceded, I would say so, you realize that things were not right. So first, I don't think it is appropriate in any manner even to think of conceding defeat, particularly when the process is being exposed to have been so fraudulent, non-accountable, so to say. Let me not use the term fraudulent, because that now would be an aspect that the Supreme Court would have to deal with. But to the extent that lots of question marks are now being put on the table, very hard questions which are rendering the whole process and even the outcome to be somehow not very, very firm. I think it's exposing us to one of the vagaries that we wanted to heal when we transited from the old constitution. And I'm happy, Dr. because you are the director of the committee of experts, and you understand why Kenyans were speaking so firmly about ensuring that certain institutions had to be given independence, autonomy, in a way that they would do their work without looking over their shoulders. And the fact that among that included the fact that they'll get their budgets, which nobody then would use to, to dangle some goodies before them, that they would get to manage the personnel or the people that then would be part of their processes in a manner that nobody would infiltrate, that they would get into the administration, the operations, without really feeling like we cannot manage it on our own if we do not lean on, say, another institution, like seemingly seems to be the case, where IBC seemingly is being exposed to have relied heavily on the so-called provincial administration, what they have renamed to be the coordination of national government and those other operations. So I'm just trying to debunk one thing, that as things stand now, I don't think it would be it would be proper for one to think of conceding defeat, because then the process itself, you can only concede defeat when you know that this process is verifiably beyond reproach.
Dr. Okot, would you like to respond to that, given that you still maintain that even if it was replayed today, you would still concede defeat, despite the fact that you admit that there are flaws, meaning that the results that you have right now, if what you're saying is true, may not be the right results?
I think, listen, I think I sympathize with NASA people, that anybody conceding defeat, especially in my context, does not necessarily mean that I must support Raila Amolo Odinga, because that seems to be what is emerging. I have a mind of my own. When I went into this race, I wanted to win. But looking at the circumstances, then looking at what's happening, even with some of the mistakes that we are discovering, there is no way Ekuru Aukot could have been the president. And for me, it is democratic, unless really people in NASA do not want to accept the fact that they are Democrats. It is democratic to say, even on an exit poll, and Boas will know this as a governance expert, even on an exit poll, you can actually concede defeat. Even number two, number last could still concede defeat. So I think for me, listen, let's move this process forward by saying, today, I want to congratulate NASA for taking the decision to go to court. But I also do not want us to stop there. We must now audit this process in such a way that we must find culpability. If there is any commissioner, any staff of the IEBC who may have been culpable or may have done something wrong, then we must now invoke the necessary laws to punish those people. And that's where my party is going into. Whereas we accept, we did not win this, and clearly the trend shows that, and that's for me is what our analysis is. We are not resting at that. And for me, what I would love for even NASA to do is not just to end this process at the court level. We need to go beyond and say, okay, what exactly went wrong, both in terms of systems? Because for me, Gitonga, let's admit certain things. At the voting, I went to vote in Kapedo Primary School in Turkana. At the voting, trust me, everything went smoothly. Everything was seamless.
So the process, and this is what the international community was applauding as having gone well.
And I have a problem with also the endorsement by the international community, because they looked at the hardware itself. Now, what we are going to look into is the software part of it. We voted properly, efficiently, but the problem is we noted in our statement as Thirdway Alliance was that the transmission was problematic. Number one, we complained about the availability or non-availability of Forms 34A. This is the Msemakweli, the real form that, at the polling station itself should have told us how many votes did Ekuru get in polling station XYZ. Those forms were not readily available. Now, what was available for us at the system, which is what we were using, was the IEBC portal. And we downloaded most of those forms ourselves. And that's exactly what we used. And we projected and looked at it and said, okay, fine. I don't think we will win this election right now, but we are going to audit and see exactly where are the mistakes, what went wrong. And I'm hoping that our audit will actually uncover the pitfalls. We will probably also hold some people responsible for what they may have done or may not have done. And that, for me, is where we should move right now. But you know what? I want to wish NASA well in court. Let's hope that really the evidence they table will materially or significantly overturn the outcome. That's not for me to decide. It's for the court to decide, and I'm also looking forward to actually joining them in court, because we also want to go and canvass certain important issues that we think...
but that does not necessarily mean that you're now joining NASA in terms of their ideology and
Gitonga, the sad thing about our country's politics is that people suck up so much to individuals, and they want psychophancy. When I was in the High Court and the Court of Appeal, alongside NASA, challenging the ballot paper case, you remember? That time, I wasn't I wasn't compromised as a NASA supporter. But just because I've expressed my own independent opinion, now I hear, oh, Ekuru has been compromised, he's supporting Jubilee. You know, this cheapness of people thinking that...
Well, somebody called it the danger of dichotomy. It's either you're left or right. It's either black or white.
And I just think that people who are even knowledgeable should stop this cheapness.
Okay.
I have got my own independent mind, and I will still have that independent mind. And I don't have to start to sing it to anybody's, tune to be seen to be, a participant in this race.
All right, Boaz, you want to respond to that?
Thank you. Gitonga, allow me not to respond to all that, because I think it's part of what I mentioned as my introductory aspect, and the fact that in concession, you concede, particularly when the process has been validated to have been credible. That's a position that I think I still hold very strongly, because in the absence of that, then you really have to interrogate it. But I want to move to what really the independent minds are emerging with. And of course, I think last week I was also here and we looked at what would have been a process and what really happened along the way. But you look at what Shule Yangu, Sauti Yangu has come up with.
Kura yangu, sauti yangu.
Yeah, Kura yangu, sauti yangu, thank you. Yeah, I think in that case you find that a lot of the inconsistencies that NASA initially had started by beaming around and in fact indicating that, as we are waiting for IBC to put its documentation in order and really make those available, we still feel aggrieved because, one, the projection of results from no known sources, that was a worry. Some of this, in fact, despite the availability of the Form 34As, and in fact, in some cases then Form 34Bs, they already saw glaring inconsistencies in numbers, in the constituencies tallies, in the number of rejected votes, even in the overall register itself, where despite the IBC having gazetted the register and indicated a certain number of votes, it still feels like it's a mushroom. It grows. So when you are faced with such a situation, and Gitonga, you remember 2013 election was really fought hard around the register. So this monster of the register is also still rearing its ugly face again. The second thing, which is emerging to be a real threat to our democracy, and for anybody really to go and sleep quietly and peacefully knowing that our electoral process can't be tampered with, is the transmission of results. I think Ndugu Aukot just indicated certain stations where, for instance, he was surprised by the enormous amount of votes he got. Maybe I think Kenyans maybe just woke up one day and decided that you are the best in that station.
In that particular station.
Yes, but you see,
but we also
it's
know
not
the
consistent.
Of voting in this country.
It is not consistent with the reality, because the validity of such a vote from that station should be based on the Forms 34As. So I think when you look at this running through and through, and to the extent that NASA, I think whatever the package they would be making available for interrogation in the court would be materials that then would have pointers to this. I don't want to put myself as the authority or an insider who may be having a lot of information on that.
Right.
But I suspect that a lot of this inconsistency, which other independent bodies are already pointing at, would really emerge. But also the preparatory process of this electoral phase. This is the first time that we were really trying to test our Katiba 2010 in its full throttle. There, Chapter 6, we are trying to look at how even the integrity of our institutions that governs and the officials of the government, the state officials, how they behave during this process. I think a lot which is also documented within this Kura yangu, sauti yangu. I think
needs to be looked at. All right, gentlemen, I want us to take a short break. When we come back, I want us to look, and Dr. Aukot, I'll start with you, being one of those who are behind the Constitution. It's not that we lack laws. It's not that we lack enough independent bodies to ensure that we're not where we are. But we seem to be coming back every single time. Now, I know there's what was envisioned in the Constitution 2010 when the drafters of the Constitution were doing that, but we just seem not to be getting there for one reason or the other. So maybe we'll hear from you what the problem might be. This is Kivumbi 2017, the early edition. Do stay with us. We're taking a short commercial break and pay a few bills. We'll be right back, and let's look at where we are as a country.